A very good evening to all our viewers this evening. My name is Rizwan and I'm the Director for ACE Personal Resource Development, a training and development organization involved in helping participants achieve creative excellence, and that's what ACE stands for. So ACE is involved in training individuals and organizations in whatever field they are to achieve creative excellence in whatever industry they pursue. And with this interest, I have conducted a 6 days TTT program, and which I had the honor of many participants who I had the honor of meeting and interacting with. And to my honor, I also have had the opportunity to have one of my professors from ISTD who had participated in the training program. And it has been a real honor to have him today, this evening, to interact and give his point of view about the TTT program. So today I would like to introduce you to our Professor P.V. Kamat, and I would like Professor Kamat to introduce himself to the audience and welcome Dr. Kamat on this particular webinar. Please go ahead. We would love to hear from you on your introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Rizwanji. I think it's a pleasure for me in terms of being on this webinar. I think it's a great thing that you're calling yourself a student and you're calling me a professor. But let me tell you, it's more pleasurable when when a professor like me has students within inverted commas like you. I look upon you as a co-professional in this journey of learning and development. Unending journey this is, it's a journey which possibly will continue, and I think will always continuously develop, because we are all learners. We are all learners, and we are all continuous learners, in terms of the day we start, we possibly stop learning. We can't be in the training profession or in the talent development profession, which is there. And therefore, I think it's a great honor for me in terms of being over here and participating, and let us go learn in this, our conversation of ours. As far as I am concerned, well, my journey has been in this area of human resources development all through. So I think that's the background. And ISTD, the Indian Society for Training and Development, is one institution in which I have been associated for perhaps the last 30 odd years or 35 odd years, to be very precise, as such. So I think, well, we'll expand on that and possibly discuss on that. Anything else you would like to know?
I would like to
feel free in terms of asking.
Congratulate you, first of all, the good news that you have taken over the National Council responsibilities for ISTD for the next 2 years. So I would like to congratulate you on this particular achievement. And I'm sure under your guidance, ISTD, the students of ISTD would definitely get to learn and get more involved in the program, and many more changes and developments will be achieved under your guidance and leadership, I am sure.
Well, I think, thank you very much for congratulating me on the re-election as far as National Council is concerned. I have been associated with this body for quite some time in different capacities. But in the changing scenario, and I am saying the changing scenario worldwide, I think the training and development, learning and development, talent development, by whatever name we want to call, we call. I think the scenario, in the present scenario, the profession is going to undergo a very massive change. A change in terms of techniques, change in terms of ideologies, change in terms of methods, change in terms of methodologies. And I think we need to adapt to the changing world. We need to be very skillful and possibly do it very fast It is much more than the VUCA world. It's much more than the gig world that we are into today. And possibly unprecedented type of situations will require unprecedented type of solutions in all sectors.
You're
And
right.
learning and development is one particular area where possibly we will have to come up. And we have already started coming up with, newer solutions or
Yes.
newer type of ways of doing things, because the show has to go on, and it has to go on successfully,
You're very,
not only in learning and development, but also in industry or also in all sectors. And wherever people are, I think the learning and development, talent development, training and development will continue to play the same or the more, or maybe an enhanced role, though a new role, a
right.
change type of circumstances, I think we will be into. So I think that's what it is.
You're very right, sir, because the fundamentals of training and development rests on change. And as we say, change is a constant. And as long as there is going to be change, training and development, upgrading of your skills, knowledge, and attitude of each individual and the organization on the whole, which definitely directly affects the overall economy of any country, definitely that makes us understand how important training and development is to the overall scenario of any economy or the global scenario as a whole. Uh, as you know, sir, before the COVID crisis, we in the training and development industry had a different way of interacting and doing training. So what is your perspective in the last 4 or 5 months? How do you see that the change that has happened in this industry?
Well, very rightly you said that change is the only constant. Change is the only thing which is constant. Everything around it is simply the change. It's a VUCA world. It's a post-COVID and post-COVID world. But fact remains that possibly the change is going to be there. And change is absolutely, it's not only in terms of small changes or incremental changes, but the change which is there is absolutely at a massive level. It's a radical change which possibly we have to deal with. And if we say that that change is not there, then it is something like the ostrich putting the head into the sand and saying that everything around me is hunky-dory, and that is not so.
Exactly.
And within that, how we can make the best of the resources, that is human resource, the people, I call it people, how people can better develop, how they can be better be utilized, how they can be better be, you make use of them, upgrade them. I think that is going to be there. It is not going to go away. This is not going to, even with whatever changes we talk of in terms of AI, even we talk in terms of increased use in terms of machine learning, even we talk in terms of use of, yes, AI is certainly
All
going to be used
technology.
even in the area of learning and development. It is going to be used in areas, all areas for that matter. The human element is not going to go away.
Exactly.
It is, I think, all said and done. Robotics has been there earlier also, but possibly the totality in terms of robotics is not going to be there, that they will totally replace the machine, the people in that way. The day that happens, talent development won't be there. Robotics development will be possibly more thought of. Yes, that is certainly changes will happen in terms of the techniques. And we are ourselves possibly coming up and getting ourselves updated in terms of some on a slower stage, but many of us possibly being doing it on a much more accelerated pace, so that we are able to equally keep pace with what is happening around us. And in that context, the Train the Trainer program, which you had possibly brought in, I think this is something which possibly is one to keep oneself updated in all the latest techniques or all the latest types of things, more in terms of the not only just the online, but the new, I will say, new type of the new training normal in the area of learning and development or training and development. The new normal is going to be there, and that is the new normal, which possibly it is. So I think there was a great change, and we have to slowly adapt to that type of change. Organizations also will have to adapt to the changes which are there, and we have to adapt to the organizational changes which are taking place. So in that way, I think there is going to be some type of a symbiotic type of a relationship between the talent development or the learning and development function vis-a-vis the corporate functions which are there, vis-a-vis the corporate strategies which are there, vis-a-vis the corporate the alignment and the attunement will have to be there, because that is something which we need to know, to adapt to, we need to align to, and then possibly that will make a great type of a thing to make a great contribution. And therefore there is a great challenge, and I think all of us will be able to come up with that type of expectations which are going to be increasing, changing, but we will certainly come up to that and make it a great success.
Great, great. So you're very right when you say that technology will be changing, but some people fear that because of technology, there will be, computers will take over. This was the fear even 20, 30 years ago, which really isn't realistic even now. When people said when computers come, men will become redundant, but which never happened. We are still developing a lot of things which is actually improving our lifestyles and making things much easier. So I think as we go forward in the coming years, technology will only be able to enhance us, and I hope it doesn't become a handicap for the economy or the mankind as a whole.
Yeah, technology, when we talk in terms of, see, initially when technology, or you mentioned very specifically in terms of computers, quite a number of years ago, when computers were being first introduced, there were a lot of apprehension which people had. I'll give one from one of the sectors, namely that of the banking sector. In the banking sector, when the computers were introduced, there was a lot of resistance. Resistance because people feared that with the introduction of computers, people will lose their jobs. That was the fear at that time. And there was opposition from the Indian Banks Association, there was opposition from the to the proposal of Indian Banks Association, there was opposition from the trade unions in the banking sector. And then maybe the Indian Banks Association told the unions, Federation of Unions of various banks, that no, you need to upgrade yourself. One of the demand was that you give us training, you upgrade our skills. Let that be initiative be done by the banks. And banks agreed to that. Banks agreed that it will be done on time of the working hours and upgradation will take place. After that, 3 levels of upgradations of IT level upgradations have taken place in banking sector. Today we can't think of banking without computers. With core banking being introduced, that's the whole at the click of a mouse. You put in the SWIFT code and the money is transferred not only over here but to any place in the world. I think that's the scenario. So you can't think of that. And people are still in banking sector. There are people, we have not reached that level. That, so yes.
Because that manpower is now able to expand to many more branches. I'm sure that is the concept.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
Because the same manpower can be utilized on a broader spectrum, many more branches, true, many more facilities worldwide or globally, where first you were in
of classrooms. I am not saying that that is going to go away. It will still continue. Classroom will it will become learner determined. Because of that, maybe I may have to change my style, I may have to change my method, I may have to change my methodology, which is there. So I think that's the change which we need to adapt, and we need to do it quickly, which is there. So I think that's the point.
And the demands for the learner is constantly changing based on the change in the technology, and the learner is becoming more aware as compared to what they were earlier, maybe 10 or 15 years back, because now they have access to online, and everything is so open that they are having their own knowledge as to what they want to do, what skills they want to gain, and what knowledge they want to gain. So as a trainer or a coach, I need to be more agile. I need to be more up on the ante to be able to upgrade myself constantly and keep myself apace with the constantly changing demand of the learners. Am I right, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Absolutely right. That agility has to be there. You have to be absolutely agile in the present circumstances, because without agility, you would not be able to very quickly possibly get into a different mode. And it's not just being aware in terms of whether it's the basic platforms that one is talking about, which one is possibly dealing today, in terms of it's not just Zoom, or it's not just Google Classroom, or it's not just Skype, but one has to go much beyond that in terms of advanced type of platforms.
Right.
Where to take that level. Possibly here also, that means whether it is in terms of how maybe the organizational experiences, the individual experiences could perhaps be made use. So maybe you make use of the XP platforms for upgrading the part pertaining to the level of so you will possibly be required in terms of having a total change in terms of the delivery patterns as far as training is concerned. But while doing so, one cannot miss out to the basic roots. So I think in that way, the basic roots, one cannot just go to the advanced type of systems without knowing the basics of various training techniques or training methods.
Yes.
Basic principles will not undergo change. The basic principles are the same, but you need to also change as far as the pattern is concerned. But if you are possibly going to say that, okay, I will only stick to the old and only make some cosmetic changes which are there, that is not going to perhaps give you results. Yes. Because only making cosmetic changes and showing as if, yes, we are now in the new world is not really going to give results. It will, instead of progression, it will lead to regression, which possibly is there. So I think we need to be careful on that.
Yes, you're right, sir. So coming to a question which has been in my mind, having the honor of having you as a participant in my TTT program, can I ask you, what was it that inspired you or initiated you to register for this 68th TTT program?
Well, I have attended quite a number of programs on training and learning and development with various institutions. The programs have been initiated by me for my own learning, or they were possibly ones where I was associated as a member of the institution or the organization which has been there. But what's the difference which I found, and therefore I enrolled for the program? I'll tell you. The program where I found two things. Was the name of Mr. Rizwan. That also made a difference. Why? I'll mention that. In my interactions with you, I had found that yes, it's something where you're always inquisitive about new things, trying to find out about that, and you will perhaps, I want to even explore that even with the group whom you're training, and you will share certain insights with them. The other thing was that the emphasis on online learning, which was emphasized in the trainer, that is something which perhaps these are 2 points which I felt. The third point was that the training is a continuous process. Learning is a continuous process. This is something which I mentioned earlier also. Now, as a part of self-learning, I thought the program was God sent in times. I can upgrade my skills. I can imbibe certain new skills. I can, add to my knowledge. How? Not only from the faculty, but even from the peer learning which takes place. And the third thing is also, all said and done, the third element of training, which we always talk of and which is the hidden part. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, for these reasons, I thought that I will learn, I will change my attitude, I will possibly change get a proper feedback from peers, from other learners there, as well as from the faculty. Maybe all these factors together made me make a decision. Yes, but one reason was certainly Rizwan Dadan, who was one of the faculty, and I thought that yes, there is something which I can add value. I'm able to add from any training program. I would be willing to learn. These days, we have been attending various webinars on different subjects. Well, why do we do that? Why do we? It's a time being invested. Time being invested because even some small element, something new learned, that is going to add value. Even that small delta X, which is added, is value addition, which adds to knowledge is something to which law of diminishing returns doesn't apply. And there are so many things which are not known. There are so many things which are possibly unknown. And I think even something new added on a continuous basis is value added to self. I believe in that. And therefore, I joined the program.
Fantastic, sir. I really admire you, and that's why I think you being in the training and learning and training industry, you are a lifelong learner from what you have just mentioned here. It seems that you have a hunger and a passion to constantly get whatever you can from the current scenario. And that's what I think many people in this crisis went through a case of anxiety, but there are others who actually turned it into possibilities and opportunities by taking on these new concepts, new technologies, and enhancing their skills. And I totally agree with you that a person should be constantly learning. And that I see that you have joined the TTT program because of that. So thank you very much for being a part of my participants and groups, because that also encouraged me and it gave me the motivation to perform my best in my 6 days TTT program. Another question, sir, I would like to ask is, your journey throughout when you registered with the TTT, the first day, what was your thought process when you logged in for the first day? What was your expectations? And going through the journey of the 6 days program, it would be interesting to understand your mindset and your actively participating thought process coming till the 6 days. How was the journey like? What was it all about?
That initially there are certain issues where each participant has some apprehensions, but apprehensions about acceptability with the group, apprehensions of other group learners, especially when in learning and development, where if it's a family group, it's different. If it's a cousin group, it's different. But if it's an open training, which is there, where people are not known, this type of fears, I will say fear may not be a right word, but okay, these apprehensions are going to be trainee, irrespective of his background or her age or even the experience. So that was there. But one thing I must say, that on the very first day, the whole process in the training program, the train the trainer program was devised in such a manner that at the very inception stage itself, through the interactions of the participants, in a very informal way, the introduction being happening, or whatever way it was, the fears, the phobias, the apprehensions were dispelled. And large number of apprehensions, of course, were not in place. The irrational ones were displaced. And I think that helped in terms of getting to the program fast. So in that way, the program was absolutely designed in such a manner. It was designed very well, so that to take care of perhaps each and every angle over 6 days, and also thereafter with the follow-up in terms of the persons themselves practicing. So I think this was a wonderful model which possibly you have evolved, where the participants could get absolute hands-on experience or live experience in terms of whatever they have learned, they could apply. So really speaking, and the feedback was immediate. So in that way, I think the model was devised in such a, or the program was designed in such a way that absolutely flawlessly to cover all the basic things, starting from the scratch with no assumptions, no givens, absolutely no assumptions and no givens, and then maybe building on maybe through simpler techniques, through simpler approaches, going in advanced stages which possibly are there, which are required for a trainer in the first stage, possibly of the entering into the training or learning and development field, or even if he's an experienced learner, and there were quite a number of experienced learners over there in the program who were having evidence of but even for them, it was, I'm sure that all of them, without exception, would have added value, because each day was a new day. Each day was a new input which was there, and therefore, whether the input was coming from the faculty or whether it was coming from the co-learners, because this is a journey, and in this type of journey, which is a continuous journey, one has to take input from wherever it comes. And at least I took it that way, and I saw it's not only me, but my other colleagues who are also participating on the program have also, and possibly they would also express in the same way. It was absolutely the point will come unequivocally from all, and in unison that yes, each day was a new day, each day was a value-adding day, each day was one where the input given was fantastic. It was something where new things were coming on a constant basis. Even if I was knowing certain things, still it was coming with a new perspective. I think that was the great thing which happened in the program. So therefore, that made the program in the great category and not in the good category. It was from good to great, if I were to say so. And each one of us strives for the excellence. I think it was absolutely striving towards excellence. That was the type of program that I would rate it as such.
Thank you very much, sir, for your...
It was an excellent program.
Thank you very much for your compliment. And I could see during the participation, as you rightly said, there were so many experienced trainers, a part of your experience and expertise, who were also involved, and they all participated with so much enthusiasm. They also took part in the new concepts like Mentimeter, the Kahoot program, and the breakout rooms, because those were such a new experience for people. And even then, I could see that the level of participation at all age groups and all experience levels was really energized and really up to the mark. I would say that was really something which was to be appreciated from all the participants.
Yes, yes. In fact, technology today has, say, since you talked in terms of breakout rooms, or you talked in terms of, or possibly even the quizzes, which possibly have been, see, today those type of platforms one needs to make use of. Because when we talk in terms of, as trainers, when we talk in terms of involvement, and we have been doing that earlier in terms of the normal classroom type of situations, the involvement will still remain, but the involvement will have to be done in a different way. Now that we talked of in terms of, since you talked in terms of the aspect of breakout rooms, the technology itself has given us several different type of options. We need to explore those options. How maybe, and utilize those options into our whatever type of programs that we are designing, so that, and even if suppose somebody is not aware of those options, still one can make use in an indigenous way options to involve the audience, because ultimately it's the audience, ultimately it's the trainee, ultimately it's the learner, and we have to make it for the learner, and the program has to be centered around that. If you do that, then the program becomes much more vibrant, the program becomes much more effective. And I think that's what our goal is in learning and development, to make it more vibrant, more effective, so that the participant, so that the learner takes the things to logical conclusion when he goes back to his organization and is on the job. That's our job. to do it that way. And that was done in the training program, the trainer program. So I think you are creating an army of people who will take it forward. I think that, yeah, that's the goal and that's the objective. And I think that's a great thing that you have been doing. And please continue doing that.
Thank you. Sir, another thing that I believe, maybe you might agree with this, a trainer or a coach, he actually feeds on the responses of the participants. Is it right? Because when he finds the energy, the enthusiasm from his participants, that itself gives him more power and more enthusiasm to give back to his participants. And that itself is a very mutually feeding kind of a process which needs to be taken care of as a trainer and coach. Don't you agree with that, sir?
Yeah, I fully agree that that part is. Hello?
Yes,
am I audible?
Yes, I can hear, sir. You're audible,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. Absolutely, that needs to be carried out in terms of the learner and the trainer. Both of them have that level of enthusiasm. If enthusiasm is missing on one side, but you need to create that excitement. You need to create that enthusiasm. It doesn't happen automatically.
Yes.
Creating or creating the excitement, creating the enthusiasm is not to be done only as a
Process.
technique or as I fail to get the word, but basically it's not just to be made as a cosmetic effect. It is much more than that. It has to be genuine.
Yes.
If you are genuine, the participant is genuine. If participant is not genuine, trainer or learner can make him genuine in that way. That should be your part. That should be your forte. That should be your thing. But for that, the trainer has to be really genuine. It can't be. Trainer is also a performing artist. But
Yes.
it is not only performance. It has to be, that has to come from the heart.
From the inside, yes.
From inside.
Yes.
And then you have to transmit it to the other person opposite. Yes. Then possibly you are able to create that type of a link. You are able to create that type of a cord. You are able to create that
Energy.
Synergy. And
Yes,
then the training program becomes great. When you talk of training, the learner plays an important role. The trainer also plays an important role. The environment plays the important role. So you have that type of a trioka, and all that possibly we need to put that. And I think that will you need to pay attention to all these aspects. And in the reality of the organization, yes, you also need to pay attention to the organization per se, the culture per se. You cannot, in fact, ignore certain things. But there are certain things which are in your hand as a trainer, as a talent developer. And I think I should do my best. Certain things could be beyond control. That one has to also possibly take those things into account and work on whatever can be done best. So in that way, trainer also has a great role, but learner also has a great role. One needs to appreciate that, and one has to understand that, and then maybe build the proper relations, build symbiotic relations that will make the training much more effective.
Great, sir. Great. Thank you very much for your input. And I saw that throughout the 6 days, sir, I saw you going through the full sessions, staying with us beyond the times, and even interacting with us. And that was really a takeaway for me, because very humbling experience for me to see that my participants were holding on to every word that we were saying, every knowledge sharing or learning that we were sharing, and they were willing to put in more time than what was allocated. And that really helped me to give more. As you say, when you actually get the audience response, you also get the energy to give more. So
when you talked in terms of the aspect as far as training is concerned, yes, there are certain limits or timings.
Yes.
You said, yes, going beyond the timings. Organizations put the timings, but this is a function where certain things cannot be just within a particular constraint. Those timing constraints are there, but one has to, if we need be, one has to go beyond it. One has to extend that. And I think if a good training session is there, there is a possibility that there will be a spillover which goes beyond the timing, which perhaps will have to be taken care, especially now in the technology-based type
Online.
of system, where there is an outer limit in certain programs. But
Right.
let me tell you that some of the institutions who are having this type of programs have even revised their protocols. That means in certain cases where it was X number of minutes and the program gets cut off, which was there in certain, I think that is no longer there. It is, they have expanded that, at least for the time being. The idea is that yes, there has to be interaction. There has to be, and I think that will remain. That will remain in terms of days to come also. So I think the extended program is, I will say, it's a receipt within inverted commas. It's a receipt to show the train effectiveness. That is the immediate feedback. You don't have to wait in terms of conducting evaluation based on the Kirkpatrick model or the Hamlin model or the
that
War
is the
model.
evidence.
No,
That's the
it's
evidence.
immediate. It's there and then the loop comes in and you get a feedback. But the extended time also tells, yes, there is enthusiasm on the part of the trainees, the learners, and learners are adding value. That they're adding value to self, and ultimately they will go on, they will take on the mantle, they will take on and become ambassadors of the, not only that program, but the ambassadors in terms of translating that into action in their organizations, which is there. And that is a great journey.
Thank you, sir. Coming from you with your expertise, I totally agree that this was something like, as an appreciation to us for the participants hanging on till the 6 days, and compliment saying that what are we going to do the 7th day. The people felt that they didn't know what they have to do on the 7th day because the program is ending on the 6th day. That was a compliment from many of the participants. So thank you very much for, sir. Today was a great day for me to interact with you, and your feedback was really valuable. It gave me a lot of insight on what was good in my program. Again, I would like to ask you, is there some room for improvement that you would like to share with us? I would definitely love to hear from you.
No, you see, in any training program, in any learning and development activity, improvement has to be there. Improvement has to be there. It has to be self-improvement in terms of, you need to analyze self first in terms of which are the areas where perhaps you or the other co-trainers would need improvement in terms of, is it in terms of delivery? Is it in terms of ordering of the programs? Is it in terms of, you need to, that is something which possibly is something pertaining to design. Something could be relating to the delivery. Something could be relating to that. But those are plus minuses. I would say I am not taking session by session type of things. No, I will say on the whole, when you talk of the program has delivered, it has delivered what possibly. So you have to go in terms of what were the objectives of the program, and then possibly see how much of that was really accomplished. And if I look at that, if I introspect and go back, and possibly I will say that yes, the objectives of the program, of train the trainer program, in terms of making them, all the participants, better trainers, equipping them in terms of the techniques or the methods, equipping them in terms of using these techniques on the online platforms, in the new normal. I think if at the end of that, if they have successfully done that in the actual hands-on type of program which was being organized, then you're completed your task, and you have completed the task successfully. I think the success was evaluated immediately. It was, so I think there was not much scope for any major improvement. Minor improvements are there. We need to look at it ourselves and go on. The improvements will always take place and must always take place.
That's
it is
an
not
ongoing process. It's
an
never ending.
Absolutely, this ongoing process. that is how our individual journey should also be. In terms of, it's absolutely continuous journey, it's an ongoing journey. The goalposts will go on changing, but we have to reach there, the newer goalposts.
Thank you very much, sir. It was a real pleasure to having you on the webinar today. And I would like to ask you to give a small message to the viewers today, a closing point that you would like to make to the viewers before we close this webinar session, sir.
Well, my closing point is only one for the session, and that is the field of learning and development or training and development is fast transforming. It is changing. Today, one should not look upon it as a small field. There were times when people used to say that this is people in training are the people who are not in the mainstream. They were on the fringes or peripheries. Many times the criticism was that if you are and then you are not in the mainstream of business. Today it is not that. Training is part of business. Training has to align to the corporate and business policies. But it is not just training and development. Today you have to make it as a part of talent development, developing talent in the organization. The change is taking place. You need to also, one more thing is that today you need to ensure that you are possibly equipped with the different new techniques in context of the online business, in the online training and development, going beyond e-learning. So I think the whole picture will undergo change, and you need to have much more focus on the entirety of training function. And also one more thing is that you need to not look upon training and development or learning and development in isolation, but connect in the totality of the HRD, human resource development or talent development. Then one gets a much more bigger picture as such. And then your role also gets much more expanded in that way. So it's role making and not as against role taking that one needs to do. And that in turn, along with several other things, will lead to a better role efficacy. And I think that should be the whole purpose as far as learning and development is concerned. So, you know, it's a great field, it's a growing field. And I think challenges are there, but one can meet the challenges. One can scale up much more in India today. And I think all said and done, the journey of excellence in learning and development will continue. And it has to continue, and one has to reach great heights. So that you contribute to make organizations, and that's a major role which we in learning and development have, and how to do, and how to perform.
So thank you very much, sir. It was a pleasure for having you on this webinar and getting all your valuable inputs. So I would like to close this session. Thank you for participating, and thank you viewers for being here this evening.